real estate sales and marketing consultants who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my real estate team member Mary Baker and I, along with the director of Boston Connect Real Estate, Melissa Wallace, provide you with our unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We like to mix it up sometimes, so not only will you hear our perspective on real estate topics, but you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of some of our real estate agents at Boston Connect Real Estate and the preferred professionals that we trust. Be part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team or one of the dedicated agents at Boston Connect Real Estate to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with us at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And good evening to all my South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. And boy, do we have a really interesting show for you guys tonight. I am Mary Baker, and I am somehow being left alone to do this tonight, so we're going to see how this goes. But fortunately enough, I do have a co-host with me, actually two co-hosts technically, and a guest. I'm joined in studio tonight with Sam Horton, full-time real estate agent at Boston Connect, and also happens to be my soon-to-be husband, too soon-to-be, and Christian Carter. Christian is the owner of Gunhild Property Solutions and a loan officer at Radius Financial Group. So hi, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
You're going to keep me on track tonight. You're going to make sure this is a really good show that everybody can take and listen to and get some good knowledge out of it.
Yeah, as long as someone gets just at least one nugget out of tonight, I think it'll be a good thing.
Okay, we like that. So, Sam, first off, I'm going to have you, I know you've been on the show with me before, but I'm going to have you introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move on to Christian. And then you guys can tell your love story after that.
So, my name's Sam Horton. I'm a realtor at Boston Connect. I've been here for about 8 or 9 years now. I've been in the real estate industry for a little bit longer than that. And over the past year, I started to get into real estate investing. That's kind of what led us here tonight.
Awesome. How about you, Christian?
All right. I am Christian Carter. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Radius Financial Group, and that's kind of how technically I got started into real estate investing and things like that.
How long have you been a lender?
Oh, man. 6 or 7 years.
Nice.
Ish.
Okay.
Give or take.
That's a decade. That's a lifetime in real estate.
Right. Surprisingly, I loved the mortgage side of the business, and then just got into real estate investing from there, and started Gunhild Property Solutions. We have about 7 rental properties right now.
Awesome.
So, doing okay.
When did you start Gunhild? I'm just curious.
I mean, technically, that was 5 years ago.
Okay. So pretty soon after getting into lending, you went right into real estate investing.
Yeah, because they kind of went hand in hand.
Okay.
You know, so
thanks for the introductions, but that leads us into, so we're talking tonight, we're going to be talking about practical ways that you can find, analyze, and secure your first investment property. I have a feeling you guys are going to go a little bit off topic after the first, but we're going to try and stick on topic with your first investment property. How did you guys meet? Because I like the story.
If we can plug it, we are co-hosts along with Jack Dalrymple. I'm going to say his name. Jack. But we co-host a real estate meetup here at Boston Connect the third Thursday of every month. The next one is actually January 19th. Starts at 6 o'clock. So if you are interested in tonight, please come by and maybe learn something. And that is how Christian and I met. So Jack and Christian started the group, and I kind of weaseled my way in there, and now the three of us run it.
Well, I remember when he used to tell me, so like randomly on either probably a Thursday night, if it's always been the first Thursday, or a Thursday of the month, third Thursday of the month, he would say, I'm going to a real estate meetup, babe, I'll see you later. And then he would come back at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, did you really talk real estate that whole entire time? He was like, the first 4 hours were really fun. I got a lot out of it. I've made some really cool friends. And then we kind of had fun with it. So it seems like it's a fun group of guys and ladies, to hang out with. And so tonight, if you guys have any questions, you can pipe in. We have George in studio. You can call 781-837-4900. Feel free to ask us any questions. These two guys are a wealth of information, and I'm just going to kind of let them lead the show when it comes to talking about real estate investing, right? All right, let's get into it, you guys. So what's our first line? What's our first topic here?
Well, finding it. And I don't know if you want to take it off on setting your goals for like what specifically you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind, if we can just back up one real quick. It'll just take me probably like a minute to cover. And it's kind of like the reasons why to buy a rental property,
Absolutely.
right? As opposed to another asset class or something like that.
Yeah.
And I like to break it down into pretty much 4 different categories. 2 that I mainly focus on, and 2 are kind of icing on the cake.
Okay.
So the first 2 are going to be cash flow and loan pay down.
Okay.
Cash flow is pretty simple. You know, you make a certain amount of money per month or per year off the rental property. What goes hand in hand with that is loan pay down. So everyone knows a 30-year fixed mortgage, right? Every month, every year, you're paying your loan down more and more and more. So you're building up your equity. So as we kind of move through this conversation, I always focus on cash flow and loan pay down because I really like those 2. The 2 icing on the cake, I don't put these into my numbers, but they're really, really powerful. And that is appreciation and then tax benefits. So appreciation, obviously your home is typically worth more and more every year. There's a little,
It's a long game. I learned that from Sam.
Exactly.
It's a long game, so.
There was a little hiccup in the 2008 era, but for the most part, appreciation. And then the tax benefits, most importantly, depreciation. So that money that you're making, every month or every year, you get to write off a good portion of it and get to keep just about all of it. Again, I'm not a CPA. I'm not going to talk taxes, but...
don't you guys have a CPA coming to your meetup?
Yeah, the next meetup will be Chris Nash talking about how to pay the government less with your rental properties.
So when we talk about tax benefits for investment properties, you guys kind of cover all the bases.
And speaking towards appreciation, that's why they say, right, buy real estate and wait.
Right.
So
it's a get-rich-slow scheme.
Yep.
As opposed to your Bitcoin or
I'm
crypto.
slow and steady, so I like that. I don't do fast and furious. I don't like any of that. I'm risk averse. So when you're reasons to buy, so you have 4 really good reasons to buy a rental property here, and I feel like I always hear the first house that people should be buying when you're thinking as a first-time home buyer really should be an investment property, and that's kind of when we're talking appreciation and cash flow to set yourself up to buy the next property, correct? Right?
I would say so, yeah. I think there's a lot of first-time home buying options for obviously first-time home buyers, so for them to take advantage of that in an investment capacity, that way they can kind of double down, and then the next buy can be their primary residence if they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of how I got started too. So I bought my first home in Carver in 2010. And I
love Carver.
I love Carver. My wife and I, we love it. But yeah, long story short, we couldn't afford anything, so we bought the crummiest house we could in 2010, which was, looking back, a pretty good time to buy. Exactly. Fixed the property up, and then 4 years later, when we were deciding to move, it was like, hey, why don't we just kind of rent this thing out and see how it goes?
Nice.
And that's kind of how we got bitten by the bug, and that's how we've been moving on ever since then.
Did you buy a multifamily in 2010, or was it?
No, I wish I did, though. If I could go back, I would buy a 3-family or a 4-family for the first 2 or 3 properties.
So Sam, he says it all the time, I'm going to throw him under the bus. He's like, if we could do it all over again, and even we kind of went for the forever house first, and now we're backtracking towards the investment route, which is a little bit more difficult to do.
Yep.
But that's where we're talking first-time home buyers. It's probably, if you're interested in investing and you are a first-time home buyer, buying a multifamily is probably the quickest way to start to build equity and build wealth, right?
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm stealing your show from you guys.
I know, right?
You already know. You can teach it.
No, not really. Okay, so we have our 4 reasons, and then so there are 4 benefits anyway. How would you go towards starting to find the ideal rental property or investment property?
Want me to take it, or you?
You go.
You were about to talk.
Well, you go ahead.
All right. Just cut me off whenever. Yeah, so essentially, so finding the rental property or finding, that piece of real estate, I would just try and, any advice that I would give is just to try and be as specific as possible. So
what you're looking for?
Exactly. Okay. So like we were talking about before, you're a first-time home buyer, looking to buy a 3-family in Plymouth that needs a little bit of cosmetic work, or are you, more... let's say you're maybe later on in life and you've got a good amount of money saved up, whether it's in a 401k or, through a home equity line of credit or something like that, and you're looking to buy a mixed-use property, like laundry facilities in the bottom, apartments up top. Just be as specific as possible in what you're looking to do. And that goes as well as, are you looking for a fixer-upper property, or are you looking for a turnkey property, maybe something new construction that you're not going to have to worry about for the first 10 years or so. Yep. So that would be, kind of find your buying criteria and really kind of narrow down on what exactly it is you're looking for.
I'd agree with that if I can just add a little bit.
Okay.
You can even break it down to like you were saying, a flip. Do you want to do a long-term rental, a mid-term rental, which is kind of a newer thing now, which is putting executives in short-term housing, traveling nurses, things of that nature. Then you do short-term, Airbnb, VRBO, etc. And it's kind of defining, like you said, what attracts you the most, what you think you can manage the most, because they all have different degrees of management skill if you're going to self-manage. And of course, if you're going to use a manager, you have to run that into your numbers, which we'll get into later.
So earlier when Christian had first come in, I was like, I was reading our agenda, and I was like, don't be too specific. And I was like, oh, what is that specifically supposed to mean? And now, as we're talking about it, I'm like, you really do kind of have to be very, very specific, because I feel as if there's so many different spokes in the wheel that you could go down from a rental standpoint that it's almost like information overload. If you don't know what you're looking for, you'll never find that deal because you're just too kind of all over the place.
And I think you'll drive other people crazy too. Like whether
me crazy.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. If you're using a realtor, and you tell your realtor well, I'm just looking for any kind of deal. Yeah. Just send come on, you need to.
You need to do the basic research to understand what, to Sam's point, what you can really manage and what you want to take on, and then I guess there's so many. I could go even further and say, okay, well, how do you know what you can take on? Right. As a first-time home buyer, truthfully, one, where are you getting the funds potentially to buy this 3-family in Plymouth, maybe so that you can rent out? How are you achieving that goal? And what am I looking for?
Yep. And we'll get into that later.
Okay.
Later on the show.
Am I jumping ahead?
You are.
I'm sorry. I'm excited.
Remember, it's find, analyze, and secure. So
we're finding. We're still in finding. All right. So we're being specific.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next?
So I guess if we're moving down kind of the agenda here, and I brought it up quickly, who is going to help you find this property? Are you going to use a realtor? And if so, again, I guess you want to be as specific as possible with all these, but I would just say if you're going to use a realtor, again, just say, I'm looking for a 3-family for, I'm just throwing out numbers here, but I'm looking for a 3-family, $400,000 or less in this area. Doesn't have to be brand new. It can be, some little cosmetic updates and things like that. Or are you using a wholesaler, which essentially, we all see those signs, WeBuyUglyHouses.com.
We sure do. It's like we buy cash.
Yes, exactly.
On the telephone poles.
Yep. Are you going through a wholesaler? Because you can frustrate a wholesaler easily too by just saying, just send me deals. And the wholesaler's like, well, what is a deal? Are you looking for a commercial property? Are you looking for self-storage? Are you looking for a flip?
Yeah, there's so many different options.
Yeah, how do you define it? So
yeah, how do you define it?
Makes sense.
And then I guess I wanted to throw this in as far as finding. As far as wholesalers, you see a lot of those bandit signs on the side of the road. We buy houses cash. I always like to take a picture of those as I'm driving by, and I'll either call them or I'll text them and say, look, I'm not looking to sell my home, but you're obviously a wholesaler, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, can you add me to your distro list, to your email distro list?
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea, because you're kind of, I feel like in order to find the deal that you're looking for, you probably have to talk to a lot of people. You probably have to have a lot of connections and be on somebody's list to reach out to. How do you know? That's what your networking group is kind of all about.
Absolutely.
What are we all looking for? What do we have?
And just to piggyback on that, not just talking to those wholesalers, but talking to people you work with, family members, friends, just saying, hey, I'm looking for, we keep going back to the first-time home buyer because it's kind of easy, but hey, I'm looking for my first home. If you know of anyone selling, I can only afford this much, but I'm willing to put in some sweat equity and things like that. Yeah. Just talking with people and telling them what you're looking for. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I actually had, as one of my talking points, is talk to people, TTP. Just tell people.
You literally just said that to me the other day, and I go, what? TP? What?
TTP, talk to people. It's actually a wholesaler that's actually I guess uses that acronym with his business, but I love it. I hear it all the time, and it's just the same thing. It's just telling people what you're interested in, what you're looking to do, and you'll be surprised by, maybe the first 20 people are like, cool, great, but then the 21st person's like, oh, well, actually, my grandmother's selling her two-family, it's in Whitman, I don't know if you'd be interested, and then you go check it out, right? So it's just talking to people, and if I can add a couple others, it might be to talk to other real estate professionals, kind of like divorce attorneys, maybe even lenders.
I like that you just quantified a divorce attorney, a real estate professional.
I mean, I guess not a real estate professional.
No, but in theory, divorce attorneys will potentially connect you with a real estate professional. So having a connection there, I totally get. But I was like, oh, are we putting real estate and divorce hand in hand? I hope not, because that's
well, you could also piggyback and say estate reps, estate attorneys, condo HOAs, because they deal with the evictions or foreclosures of anyone not
like a management company potentially.
Yep, management company is another good source. So those are just kind of out there ideas, but again, talk to people, tell people you're
building relationships.
Yeah, and nurture that relationship.
Yeah. If I can add one more thing, then I promise I'll be quiet.
This is your show, you guys, so you can add everything. Piggyback and add all you want.
So, I'm sure you guys have seen those little door hangers. They're like the kind of rectangle. The rectangle thing with the little cutout.
The oil company.
Yeah, you get from your oil bill goes there. So what I like to do too is I keep about anywhere from 50 to 100 of those in my truck. And if I'm driving by a property that looks distressed or needs a little bit of TLC, obviously grass is long in the front yard and things like that, I'll just pull over and pop one of those.
Have you ever gotten a call? I'm so curious.
No.
But I guess you have to.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, you have to see how many you're doing in order. Like, how many you have to do. You have to do 100 before you get maybe one call, or 300 before you ever get one call. But it is. I was just curious if you've ever gotten a call off of it.
No, but
we have a house in Pembroke that I think I want to do that too. I won't say where.
They're incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
And you can buy, like I said, like a couple hundred
at a time. Good return on investment.
Yeah. Throw them in your car or your truck, and as you're driving around, be like, I guess I'll hop out and take the 30 seconds to go put this on the doorknob.
Yeah. And then that kind of goes into like the driving for dollars, which is another way to find a deal if you're looking for a property, looking for something that needs some love, and then talking with a lender about a construction loan and how you can improve it, add value, and then maybe even capture some equity on the refi down the road. For especially first-time home buyer, it sounds complicated, but if you work with the right people, real estate agent and a lender and a good attorney, you can usually figure it out together, and a good contractor if you don't know what you're doing. But it's attainable.
So that kind of something that Christian had said earlier was, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. But I was just thinking about building the same type of real estate team. If you're going through a real estate professional to find these deals, you still potentially need a lender or need somebody who is connected for hard money lending in some way, shape, or form. You need the same type of real estate professionals that you would throughout any normal resale. It's just a completely different ball game.
Right.
So it's like my expertise, I just say, my expertise is resale and new construction. I have that all day long. Real estate investing wise, I usually go, so people who have investment properties, I go, Sharon, Sam, can you help me out here? I don't know, just don't know it as well. And there's a lot to know. Sorry, I get overwhelmed.
And I guess the only other thing I'd add to that is obviously invest time, like we were saying, with all these different types of people and talk to people, but you have online tools you can use as well, such as if you work with a realtor, they'll usually connect you to MLS. You get third-party sites like Zillow, Realtor.com, you can drive for dollar, which is not an online tool, but you can still drive around and look for property. And then there's...
Can you explain what driving for dollars is, just to make sure that everybody understands what you're actually doing?
Driving for dollars is literally just driving around neighborhoods looking for the house that sticks out in the neighborhood, the one that needs updates. The grass is high. There's a car in the driveway that's been there for 25 years, hasn't moved. A property like that, and you jot down the address, and then you do your due diligence, and try and figure out who the owners are and how to get in touch with them, basically. And that's driving for dollars. So you're driving around in the hopes of finding a deal that you can secure, and then that creates your dollars.
Okay. I just want, for a clarity standpoint.
Yeah. No problem. And the other thing was biggerpockets.com is a really good source for any kind of information on this kind of stuff. And they also have some offline properties available there as well. So
it's a website and a podcast?
Yeah, and a YouTube channel, the whole media.
Bigger Pockets, okay.
Yep.
All right, so we're finding the property. We know why we want to buy the property. We're finding the property, right? Now, we found the property. So what route do we want to go down here? Because I feel like there's so many that we can. We found the 3-family. The first time, we're sticking with the first-time home buyer. We found the 3-family. What am I going to do as a first-time home buyer in order to get myself positioned to purchase that property? And what makes it worth it for me?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind.
You got it.
I always
so polite. When we, Sharon and Melissa are here, we're like 90% of the time clamoring over each other, edgewise, being like, come on. Okay, anyways.
So right off the bat, I know this rule might be kind of tough in our area, but right off the bat, I go to the 1% rule. And 1%, let me back up. The reason why I use this is because, again, long-term investor holding these properties for 30 plus years, not looking to flip or anything like that, renting out for the long term. So that's why I go with this 1% rule. And it's a simple calculation that you can do in your head, where essentially the property needs to rent out for 1% of the purchase price, or however much money you have into it per month. Okay. So for example, we'll use an easy example here. Let's say you're buying a home for $100,000.
Yep.
That home or that property should rent out for $1,000 a month. That's not a hard and fast rule. Again, it's very difficult to find up here, but that's at least a baseline where if I'm looking at a property and it comes close to the 1% rule, or it meets the 1% rule, that is the trigger for me to go in and do a deep dive analysis of the property.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
So that actually makes perfect sense to me. You haven't explained that to me that way. Thanks for clarifying. But it makes perfect sense. So that's not hard math. If you can make at least a little bit of a profit, or 1% of what you're purchasing it for.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
And that goes with renovation too. So let's say, again, we're going to use easy numbers, but let's say you're buying a property for $200,000 and you have to put $100,000 into the property. Mm-hmm. So you're into the property for $300,000.
Yep. That
property should rent out for $3,000 a month.
Gotcha.
So it goes with improvements and things like that as well, because I typically don't buy beautiful properties.
That goes back to the value add, right? And that's really important, I think, for especially first-time investor. Is trying to find something that you can add some value to, whether it just be updating the kitchen, updating the bathrooms, turning in some attic space that can be converted into living space, basement space, same thing, garage, like utilizing that, renting out your garage space separately, it can provide additional cash flow, so things like that.
That's kind of like getting creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that hits, when you're talking about the 1% rule, that goes along and hits appreciation. If you're and for the renovations, if you're talking about renovating a property, you're also getting that appreciating asset from the investment property. Mm-hmm. Not only getting the income, essentially, or the cash flow, but you're also getting appreciation from it. So you're hitting two of your benefits.
Mm-hmm. And I guess just to kind of piggyback on that, so we talked about the 1% rule. If a property comes even close to meeting the 1% rule, like we said, that's when I'll typically do a deeper analysis of the property. So that's when, of course, I whip out the spreadsheet.
Yeah, you guys in your spreadsheet.
You need one. You need a spreadsheet.
Sam showed me your spreadsheet earlier, which, guys, you can't see it, and we are on Facebook Live here and on all of the Connect channels as well. You can't see it here, but it is very, very detailed, in my opinion.
This probably isn't even Christians. This is probably just like a sample.
More in-depth one. Well, this is actually a real one from our property in Attleboro.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I was just lazy, so I just took a snapshot. Copied and pasted.
That's real life, right? So go over maybe some of the things to consider within your deep dive. So you're talking about analyzing the property, what makes it worth it to invest in.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things you need to worry about, right? Income versus expenses. Again, we talked about exactly. We talked that I don't really look at appreciation or tax benefits. That's kind of icing on the cake. But I'm looking at income versus expenses. So again, if I found a property that has met this 1% rule, I'll do a deeper dive. I'll do a 12-month analysis of the property, right? So I'll start putting in the income. What are the current rents, and what do I think is the fair market rent for those units or for that property? It'll shoot out an annual figure. For our example here, it's $56,300 in annual income. And then I do a breakdown of all the expenses. A big thing here is if you talk to your lender or something and you say, like my mortgage payment's going to be $2,800 a month, and the rent that I'll be collecting is $3,500 a month. This is great. I'm going to make $700 a month. This is awesome. That is not a deep dive analysis of that property. Of course, you've got to think about your principal and interest. So what your loan payment, you're paying back the loan. Real estate taxes, homeowners insurance, water, sewer, garbage. Are you paying those? Are you pushing those off to the tenants? Snow plowing, that can be a big one in years. And then let's see, landscaping. And then a property management company. Are you going to manage it yourself? Are you going to hire a property management company? Because that could be 7%, 10%, 5% of the gross monthly rents per month. So these things really start to add up. As a general rule of thumb, so we've got here in the spreadsheet, we've got, so for example, garage door repair, landscaping, pest control, cleaning. These are all, things I had to deal with in 2022 for this particular property. As a general rule of thumb,
I just all the numbers here.
Yeah, exactly. I just lump those all together as 10%.
Okay.
Right. So right off the bat, I'm taking 10% off that gross monthly rent to deal with things like,
You're putting it aside in case these things come up.
100%.
So you don't necessarily want to be going into pocket for this stuff. You want the rents that you're currently getting to be able to cover it.
Exactly.
And if you're the first-time home buyer, so now I'm just thinking of this 3-family, I'm the first-time home buyer, it behooves me to live in one of those units, correct? So if I'm, rather than being a first-time home buyer and purchasing an investment property, because that's one scenario, but then you can be a first-time home buyer purchasing a multifamily and being owner-occupied. Right? So if I'm purchasing the 3-family, I'm only getting 2 rents.
Right.
And I'm living in one.
And that's all things you want to factor in there too.
Yeah.
And you can definitely run into the trick of, the numbers don't look good right here, but maybe I just bump the rent up a little bit, and we're not going to have as much snow this year, I don't think, so I'm going to bump the snow plowing. Don't fall into that trap. That is a bad idea.
Accounting for some vacancy?
Great question.
Yeah.
So again, I use 10% as a vacancy factor as well.
Okay.
I can tell you, I have never had especially in this market, I've never had a unit vacant for more than 15 days. It is ridiculous.
My ears.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, but you still want to factor in that 10% vacancy factor, because who knows, especially with the next year to come, if the market does take a turn for the worse, most of the economy, you want to factor in the vacancy factor.
So you're thinking about 10% for incidental repairs, potentially, and 10% for vacancy.
Yep, and then I also do a 10% for basically capital expenditures.
Okay.
So you want to put away a chunk of that gross monthly income for big ticket items, such as a brand new roof. things like that. Water heaters going.
So that's kind of your savings account, if you're thinking about it in that sense, savings account for that specific property if anything comes up, just like you would any other property.
Absolutely.
So is it safe to say you do 20% on, you take away 20% on every single check that comes in from every single tenant?
Yes. So yes and no. I mean, obviously I'm a mortgage lender.
But you're also experienced, so it's
right. So
you have more than one investment property.
Yes. So essentially for those capital expenditures and things like that, we do have a home equity line of credit. So it's just like it sounds, just a line of credit that we continually pay down. And if there were a big ticket item, such as a roof or something like that, then we'll draw from that HELOC, that home equity line of credit, to pay for that. But we are taking all the proceeds from the income and continuing to pay down that HELOC, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So that's, you, at that point, you own more than one property and you pulled the equity line. So again, just real quick, you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. I am Mary Baker. My co-hosts tonight are Samuel Horton, and we have our guest in studio, Christian Carter. So we are talking everything about finding, analyzing, and securing your first investment property. If you guys have any questions, feel free to call into George at the studio. The number is 781-837-4900, or you can always interact with us on Facebook Live as well. Okay, sorry, I just had to do that little plug. Also, Sharon and Melissa gave me the reins tonight, so everybody tell them I did a really good job. They're probably at home listening.
I think we're doing great.
I think we're doing fine. So we're analyzing, deep diving.
So yes.
Do you want to hit on 70% at all, or because I know you probably deal with more flippers than I do.
70% rule is basically that a rehabber or a flipper shouldn't pay more than 70% of the after repair value, and the after repair value is what you think the house will sell for once you make all of those value add repairs, right? So you find a dilapidated house, you buy it at hopefully below fair market value, so you can match that 70% rule, and that way you can capture a slight gain at the end of it if you kind of follow this rule. And again, it's kind of similar to the 1% rule. It doesn't always apply to every single scenario, but it is a good calculator to kind of get a rough idea of what you're going to see in terms of a profit on a flip property. Did I do a good job of that?
Nailed it.
Okay. All right.
I'm doing social media. You guys take it from here.
You want to talk about the gross rent multiplier? You probably have to do this with like non-QM loans and stuff.
I'm not big on the gross rent multiplier. I use a lot below 1%, and then if I am doing like a value add, I'll definitely look at the 70% rule.
Yep.
But I'm just not big on the gross rent multiplier. Bigger advocate of 1%.
Yeah.
To be honest.
So all different rules of thumb as to how to determine if a deal is a good investment for specifically what you're looking for. So it seems like there's different facets that you can take depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no one size fits all. I think that's what confuses my brain, is like you could look at it from this perspective, you could kind of look at it from this perspective, or it's just very overwhelming.
There's a lot of options. There's a lot of choice. There's a lot of options. Like we were saying earlier, you can get into commercial, residential. You could do, even like if you break those down, you have single families, multifamilies, large multifamilies. You have like on the commercial side, retail, industrial. And it's kind of crazy when you think of all of your options, when you think of how much real estate there is out there, and it's really just picking an area you're comfortable with and then following some of these steps maybe, and reaching out to professionals that have at least done it before, whether it's going to a meetup or something like that and talking to people that have done it before. That always helps.
Sorry.
No.
I think you bring up a great point. Going to some of these meetups or talking to realtors, lenders, just talking to real estate professionals or investors themselves, I feel like a lot of people are torn between, do I want to buy and hold, meaning do I want to buy a property and hold it for 30 years and be a landlord, or do I want to flip properties? Because I know flipping properties sounds cool, and it's, that's what gets all the HGTV shows. It's fast cash. Yeah. Just get out and talk to some people, because that's probably, if we had to say that there was a step one, I would probably say get out, talk to people, talk to real estate professionals, and figure out if you want to be a buy and hold investor or if you want to be a flipper. That's probably step one.
I feel like the most common that I hear, well, up until I guess the past couple of years, I'd say like past 2 years, was always flipping. I want to flip a property, and it was a great market to actually be, even though deals were hard to come by, it was a great market to be flipping properties in. The interest rates had never been so low, and demand had never been so high. But now I feel like we're kind of turning a leaf, and it's going more into a buy and hold market, which, again, for somebody who's not very risk averse, is nice.
Yeah. And I
Did you hear what I said, Sam? Just so you know.
I think maybe that she wants to buy some more rentals.
That's also probably because the people you surround yourself with too, right? So even for the last 6 years, I've heard more about buy and hold, probably because those are the people that I've gravitated towards. And you being a realtor, you've probably gravitated, I'm just guessing, but maybe more towards the flippers. Just guessing here.
Yeah,
but
that's accurate, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Not me.
Oh.
No, I haven't flipped any houses. So if you've gone through everything and we've found, we know why we're buying, we found the house, we've analyzed what makes it a good deal, we've run all the numbers, we've done the deep dive. Now, how do we go about potentially securing that property? And that's going from am I jumping ahead?
No, I just wanted to add one more thing to the analyzing. I think it's kind of important. It's to develop an exit strategy for the house. Even if you're going to hold it for 30 years, just having a plan B or a plan C lined up in case something happens where you have to get rid of it or whatever. The market goes crazy and you want to capitalize on that equity and get a bigger property or a bigger investment, whatever the case may be. It's always good to look at your options and what you can do with that asset after you secure it.
100% agree. 100%. So even if you're looking at flipping a property, you should still run the numbers like, hey, what if I can't get rid of this property for this purchase price? What if I had to turn this into a long-term rental? What if I had to turn into a mid-term rental to traveling nurses and things like that?
That's really smart.
Same thing with buy and hold. What happens if I can't rent this property? How much can I sell it for in 2 years, 5 years down the road? I think you hit the nail on the head, Sam.
Perfect. Now we can move on to securing, which is Christian's specialty.
Securing the property. So Sam's saying he's really good at finding the deals, right? Everybody out there, he's really good at finding them.
You are good at finding them.
And Christian's really good at securing them. But again, you have more real investment properties than we do. Oh, that means we only have 10 more minutes.
Oh, man.
I know.
This is going quick.
I told you it went by quick. I said 45 minutes flies.
It does.
Okay, so
especially when you're talking about real estate investing.
Let's tell people how they're going to secure their first investment property.
I thought this was going until 2 in the morning. I thought that...
I mean, if you had seen Sam's agenda that he came downstairs and showed me earlier, he was like, yep, so these are all my talking points for tonight. He goes, you might want to study up. I'm like, oh, cool, thank you. So how would you go about securing this first house, right, depending on how you're purchasing it?
Yeah. You want me to take it or you?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I guess I'll start off here. So you've analyzed the numbers, and just because, let's say, the price that you're willing to offer is lower than the listing price, I mean, you guys are realtors, you know more than me. That doesn't mean, oh man, it's listed at $400 and I can only afford to pay $390 for it.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you
walk away.
Not
today.
No. Well, yeah, especially not today.
Hear that, everybody? Now is a great time to buy.
Yes.
Despite what you think.
So I guess there's 3 ways you can go about it. Not 3 ways, but so there's 3 ways to categorize the property. Yep. It could be your primary residence, it could be a second home or a vacation home, or it could be an investment property. And from the financing side of the house, that's the only 3 categories we kind of care about.
Yep.
Are you going to live in it? Is it going to be your second home? Or is it going to strictly be an investment property?
Okay.
After that, you have to either, if you're, like I said, if you have a healthy 401k, you've got healthy cash reserves, you're kind of later on in life, maybe you have a big home equity line of credit on your primary residence or another property, you can always go the investment route and do the 25% down payment, and kind of take that route. So
that's the big difference, in my opinion, from a real estate perspective or a real estate agent's perspective. When you're a first-time home buyer and you're going to be owner-occupied, what percentage do you have to put down?
I mean, you can put anywhere from 0% with a USDA loan or a VA loan.
Yep.
You can do a 3% conventional if you're a first-time home buyer. Mass housing is awesome for this stuff.
You have to live in the property.
You have to live in the property.
If you're not going to live in the property, it's 25%.
Yes.
Okay.
For the most part.
For the most part, okay. So that's a huge swing. When you're talking entry level, that's a huge swing between, unless you're really determined that you don't want to live in the place.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I would say to that is that the second home, so that comes with a 10% down payment.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you are looking to buy, if you live up here in Massachusetts, maybe want to turn into a somewhat seasonal snowbird or something, and you're looking to buy a home in Florida, that doesn't mean you need to make a 25% down payment.
Okay, so that's the vacation home.
Yep, vacation homes still come with a 10% down payment.
Sam, we're going to buy a vacation home.
I know, right?
I got a notification of one today. Thanks to a wholesaler. Speaking of wholesalers, it's in Dennisport, but I don't want to tell everyone about it.
I was going to say, don't be giving everything away. No, I'm kidding. You got to come to the real estate networking group, the investment networking group, in order to find out what the deals are.
Exactly. So January 19th.
Yep, at our office here at Boston Connect R.E. Okay, so those are the three.
Yeah, so those are kind of the three cookie cutter ways, right? So now we're talking, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, conventional loans here. You can think outside the box a little bit. You can always go to a commercial lender. I will say commercial lenders vary greatly, and as far as their terms and their rates and things like that. One commercial lender might give you a 15-year term at 6% interest rate, where the other one is a 25-year term, at a 5% interest rate. So commercial loans can vary quite a bit.
They can also kind of change their terms in the middle of your transaction too, just to be.
Yes. Yeah.
It happened to me. That's why I mention it, because it's kind of like they have a little bit more flexibility with what they can do with the terms and conditions of the loan before you actually close on it.
Yes.
In case you do go that way.
This is why I talk to people, TTP.
TTP.
That's why we do that.
Yeah, so that's a great point too. Commercial loans, the rate and everything like that is actually kind of set by the underwriter at the end of the loan process.
Interesting.
As opposed to like your more residential loans where it's kind of set up front with the loan officer, right? And you lock in your rate and things like that. You're not locking in your terms with a commercial loan until you're at the closing table, pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, every commercial loan that I've got, a week out.
That might be
you're still talking to him.
Yeah. that might not be the first one.
And then there's some other interesting. Was that the 5-minute mark?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh man.
We'll hear our outro before they kick us off here.
All right, fair enough. Some other interesting things to be aware of. I'll just talk about hard money and private money.
Okay.
Hard money, don't let it scare you. But
not a guy with a baseball bat.
It's not a guy with a baseball bat who's going to break your legs.
There's no bookie.
There's no bookie.
It's not a bookie. Okay.
From my experience.
Also mine.
I have no experience.
Yeah, so hard money lenders, they can typically close, 5 to 7 days, which
is
is
common in the city.
Yeah, which
really
I mean,
common, at least.
But you guys must love a 7-day close as realtors. I mean, that's.
I wouldn't complain about it.
Right. So hard money lenders, they can close pretty quickly. Again, their terms and things are they vary greatly between hard money lenders. Just don't be surprised if you get a quote of 11%.
Yep.
Like I got back in April 2022.
Okay.
Because it's just think of it as a short-term loan. It's a way for you to secure the property.
Secure it quickly.
Secure it quickly. Thank you.
Yep.
Hopefully at a really good price, and then you're in that loan for usually six months, and then you just refinance out into a commercial or a conventional loan or things like that. Okay. I feel like especially a lot of first-time home buyers, they'll balk when they hear an 11% interest rate. But if you're getting, a $330,000 property for $220,000, who cares if you're paying 11% for 6 months?
Right. While you're fixing it up and then adding the value to it.
Exactly. Another one here, I know we're running out of time, but another one is always private money. You can, not necessarily like family and friends, but, maybe someone you know has a lot of money that is...
looking to invest in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Passively. Like, they don't want to be involved with the day-to-day, and that's where you can kind of come in, use their money, and make it mutually beneficial to both parties, where you manage the asset, you find it, analyze it, secure it, and then use their money and pay them back a percentage of that money.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Maybe they're getting 8% in the stock market, and you can give them 9.5% or 10%.
Right.
For 6 months.
That's what Sam's been telling me for a while. He has. He's like, private money's the way to go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Any others?
And then another great one is seller financing. So I think seller financing just needs to be sold the right way, especially if you eventually find like maybe an older couple who has a number of rental properties. They've loved the passive income for the past 30 years, but they kind of want to cash out and get rid of the properties because they're sick and tired of managing them, right?
Okay.
But they've been used to that mailbox money for the past 30 years. So essentially what seller financing is let's say Sam has owned the property for the past 30 years. He's got it paid off or whatever. And then I come to Sam and say, hey, I'd like to buy your property. Instead of me taking out a loan from the bank, I'll take out a loan from Sam. So let's say I pay Sam $3,000 every month for the next 30 years until I've paid back Sam the price of the home.
So the asset is the loan. The asset being the property is essentially the loan in that case, and you're paying it like you would any other mortgage.
Correct. And the seller
But to
avoids
the seller.
the taxes there because they're not taking a lump sum. They're getting paid monthly, so they actually have tax benefits there. And then they can also, if Christian stops paying me year 25, I can go back and still seize that property from him and take it back, and now it's mine again. So he could have paid me for 25 years, and now it's mine again, and I made all of that money in that span.
It's a really
That
great...
actually doesn't sound as scary to me, because you said seller financing has to be sold, right?
Yeah.
'Cause I've always been, and I can hear our outro music starting, but I always had been a little bit scared of it, so that's interesting to hear. Well, great show, you guys. Thank you for coming on with me and talking real estate investing.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions, we will be able to get you in touch with Sam and Christian. You can just follow us on Facebook and or go to bostonconnect.com or listen to any of our podcasts, our Talk Real Estate Roundtable.
Thank
Thanks, you guys.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Have a blast.
Thanks for joining. It was awesome.
WATD-FM Marshfield, WBMS Rockton. The South Shore's first choice for live team coverage of breaking news, emergency traffic.